All right, Krellis, thank you. It is day 5 of congressional redistricting in Arkansas, and it looks like lawmakers are discussing what our new lines could look like. Both state agencies committees in the House and the Senate met this morning. They handle these maps, and they talked at length about an identical bill in both the House and the Senate by Representative Speaks and Senator English. That bill would split Pulaski County into multiple districts. Senator Jimmy Hickey says the goal is to pass those bills out of committee and place them on the chamber's calendar for Friday, but other lawmakers argue that this map is not good enough. We'll have more from the Capitol coming up right here tonight at 5 and 6. The battle over abortion is heating up right now in America. Yesterday, the Biden administration reversed a Trump-era ban on abortion referrals by community family planning clinics. The political warfare is ramping up as new abortion rights in Texas bring new impacts to surrounding states like Arkansas. Restrictive abortion legislation went into effect in Texas last month. Since then, the vice president of Planned Parenthood for the Great Plains region says states like Oklahoma and Arkansas are seeing impacts unlike anything she's ever seen.
Last year, we saw, around 250 patients from Texas across our affiliate. This year to date, we've seen more than 500, more like 550, and half of those since September 1st.
As it currently stands, Arkansas allows abortions up until 20 weeks. A newly passed law is still being challenged in court. It's a near total ban on abortions except when saving the mother's life. Right now, that law is temporarily on hold, blocked by a U.S. district judge. That preliminary block can be appealed to the 8th Circuit Court, which can either enforce it or cancel it. Then the district court can hand down a final judgment, possibly blocking the law for good. That decision, again, could be appealed possibly all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. For now, we're still at the preliminary injunction stage, and we'll keep you updated on this. A hopeful sign in the natural state. That's how Governor Asa Hutchinson describes the latest trends when it comes to our COVID-19 numbers in Arkansas this afternoon. Fewer than 200 new cases were reported on Monday. That continues the downward trend in average new cases, and we're seeing consistent decreases across the board. Here's a look at our active cases, hospitalizations, and daily deaths in the last month. Our active cases are down over 60%. COVID hospitalizations are down nearly 50%, sitting at 669. Meanwhile, the average number of daily deaths also down by a third at 20. The Arkansas Senate has advanced a measure that would require an exemption process for workers who face a COVID-19 vaccine mandate from their employers. The measure from Senator Kim Hammer, a Republican from Benton, says any employer that mandates the vaccine must also offer an exemption process that includes testing or proof of antibodies. If enacted, the requirement would end July 31st, 2023, unless it is extended by lawmakers. The measure now heads to the House for consideration. All right, another big impact from this pandemic is mental health. We talked about it, how it's impacting teens yesterday during our Mind Matters segment. And today we're talking about kids, because kids all around the world are still suffering from serious mental health issues from the COVID-19 pandemic. That's according to a new report from UNICEF. The Child Protection Agency is calling on governments everywhere to do more to help. Tina Kraus reports from London.
When you get your book, you're in.
Class is back in session for millions of kids around the world, and the United Nations Children's Fund says there's a crucial lesson to be learned from COVID.
To prioritize mental health, because investing in mental health can be life-saving for individuals and for our children.
A new report from UNICEF says disruption to education, recreation, and routines is leaving many young people feeling afraid, angry, and concerned for their future. Psychiatrists report a rise in cases of anxiety, eating disorders, and suicidal thoughts.
47,000 adolescents are dying from suicide every year, and that is a staggering number.
UNICEF says globally, only about 2% of government health budgets go toward mental health. That's less than $1 per person in some of the poorest nations.
We are calling for policies within schools that protect and address mental health issues amongst children and adolescents.
The pandemic prompted France to offer free therapy sessions for children. England set up 24/7 crisis hotlines that have received more than 3 million calls since lockdowns began. UNICEF says it may take years to expose the pandemic's full mental health impact on young people. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
And all of this comes as pediatric psychiatrists say they were already short of resources before the pandemic brought a surge in caseloads. Let's get to a THV11 update this afternoon. A man wanted for a murder in Little Rock has now been denied bail. Tremaine Anderson has been formally charged with capital murder. That's him right there on your screen. He's accused of killing Ryan Montgomery of Little Rock. Montgomery's body was found on August 12th in Benton. Back in 2005, Anderson pleaded guilty to a first-degree murder case in Pulaski County, and he was sentenced to 20 years then. This afternoon, he's being held in the Saline County Jail. A former Arkansas firefighter has been sentenced to jail for assaulting a man outside of Oaklawn Casino Resort in Hot Springs. Benjamin Snodgrass, who resigned as a Bentonville fire captain after he was charged, was sentenced to a year in jail on Monday. He will only serve 60 days after he was found guilty of public intoxication and battery. Here is police body camera video from the incident. Officers say Snodgrass asked the victim, who is Asian American, if he was from America and began to push him. Snodgrass's attorney says he was drugged before the incident happened, and he will report to jail on November 1st. New at noon, an update to a story we've been talking a lot about. The Park Plaza Mall in Little Rock will be sold later this month. According to our partners at Arkansas Business, the mall will be sold in an auction on the steps of the Pulaski County Courthouse on October 28th at noon. The announcement comes just a week after a county judge ruled that Park Plaza be placed under foreclosure after the mall defaulted on a loan. You can learn more about what led to the sale right now on thv-at-noon.com. All right, a lot of us still talking about that big Facebook outage yesterday, and the social media giant is apologizing for that outage that left billions of users unable to access Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp for several hours on Monday. The company blames a technical issue. Vladimir Dutier has details of that widespread outage and the impacts.
If you logged onto Facebook or any of its popular properties like Instagram or WhatsApp yesterday, you waited and waited. The social media giant was completely knocked offline for hours, a nightmare scenario for a company already being criticized on multiple fronts. The massive global outage started after Facebook said that what it called configuration changes on its routers were the root of the issue, disrupting network traffic and bringing services to a halt. The cascading effects were wide-ranging, not only affecting users but also many of Facebook's internal systems, meaning its own employees were unable to access the company's internal messaging system or even gain access to offices as their work badges stopped working. The outage even locked out engineers working to fix the problem remotely.
It's incredibly disruptive.
Chris Krebs is a former director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. He explains how the problem prevented Facebook's systems from communicating across the internet.
It's kind of like in the old days when you've got someone sitting at an operator board plugging in the lines to make calls connect. And effectively, the operator lost all understanding of where on the board they were supposed to plug in.
Krebs says Facebook's outage exposed how interconnected its technology and its billions of users are with the internet economy as a whole.
Facebook is also used by some small businesses as their only sort of internet platform. How problematic was it for them?
There's a lot of business-to-business services and functions that are enabled by Facebook and Instagram. You think about all the advertisement and the products that are sold. That really puts a disruption across the ability of those companies to transact business.
It's important to note that Facebook says no user data was breached during the outage, and the company and several high-profile people at the company apologized yesterday for the impact the outage had on users. Technical issues like this happen from time to time. In fact, Facebook had a similar incident happen back in 2019. However, experts say it is extremely rare for so many major internet platforms to go down globally at the same time. Vladimir Dutier, CBS News, New York.